This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV on YouTube, coming at you with my weekly review of the points I find interesting in Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer newsletter. And before I get into it, I just want to say one quick piece of news about me. I am, after being delayed several years due to some issues that came up in my life, my Blood Hunter Thirst and Rage movie is going to be filmed in August. And for people that like to make fun of me as an actor, say whatever you want, but I have a movie clip that has only been up a month. 1 month, it's got over 1.5 million views. A 10-minute fight scene I did. So I'm looking forward to doing this Blood Hunter Thirst and Rage movie, and there are going to be some wrestling celebrities in this movie. Talked to a couple of them today, and I'm really looking forward to it. It will be a YouTube and Tubi movie. So let's jump into the other news. In WWE news, WWE Hall of Famer, who I guess last appeared in AEW a couple weeks ago, Ric Flair, I guess tweeted about Jim Ross, a tweet that came out badly. Ross has been getting a lot of sympathy lately for colon cancer. And Flair put out a tweet saying, quote, "Jim Ross will always be Jim Ross, seeking attention, focus on your recovery," end quote. So Flair, like, some people will say that that some heels are actually nicer than some of the baby faces. Ric Flair is clearly more of a heel in real life, and I guess to further try and retract that, he's now saying his skin cancer is back. I mean, he's always posting pictures out in the sun and in a tank top. So if he had skin cancer before, that's probably not the best way to avoid it coming back, living in Florida. Now, I don't know if this is the patches that get cut out, because I've personally had 3 skin cancer patches cut out from using tanning beds for the years I was wrestling. I hope it's just getting surgery for patches cut out. And I hope it's not the more serious form, because he is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And Jim Ross is one of my favorite commentators. So I like them both. And I'm sure Jim Ross, I mean, who knows? I mean, if you're going through treatments and going through hell and you have people chirping at you, you might take it more personally than not just being, oh, that's Ric Flair being Ric Flair. But it's probably safe to say Jim Ross is making more than Ric Flair these days, because I understand he's the highest paid announcer in wrestling. And I don't know what Ric Flair's AEW deal is, but they hardly use him. If he is in fact still under an AEW deal, I really don't know. But he's still doing the autograph circuit as well. He was actually on that show, the show in Philadelphia about 6 weeks ago. That was the TWA's one and done return show. Apparently, it only had about 120 fans in the ECW arena, which is bombing. And Ric Flair was on that show, so I guess Ric Flair's not the drawing card that he used to be either. WWE released R-Truth 53, Carlito 46, and Valhalla of the Viking Raiders, Sarah Rowe 31, who hadn't been used for quite a while. It was all contracts not being renewed. R-Truth was almost exclusively to just doing occasional appearances or very short television matches. And supposedly he was making over $550,000 a year. This year he had only done 6 matches. Sarah Rowe, as I said, she's barely been used. They should get rid of the Viking Raiders, because those guys are horrible in my opinion. My main memory of the Viking Raiders is that time Top Dollar did the dive, completely missed them, and they still bumped. Sorry, that's cause for being fired in my book. You should not be in the WWE on the main roster taking bumps if someone completely misses a dive on you. I'm sorry. Let's not that they've ever been over, but let's add them to the cutting room floor, please. There's a lot more deserving people out there. Um, and apparently the minimum main roster pay now is 350 grand a year. Worlds Collide this weekend has 9,497 tickets out. The Great Western Forum, formerly Great Western Forum, now known as the Kia Forum in LA, which has a 17,505 seat capacity. That's not bad considering there's no real top names on the show. It is a historic show, the first American show with AAA under the WWE banner. But Money in the Bank is in the same area later that day in a different venue, the Intuit Dome, which holds 18,000, and there's about 14,000 tickets out for that one. So, well, those aren't going to be legitimate sellouts. They're going to have two very good crowds within the same market on the same day. London Mayor Sadiq Khan really wants WrestleMania in London. Meltzer points out it's all going to be about the financial offer. WWE under TKO, which, by the way, a lot of people are saying within the business that as much as Vince McMahon was not maybe known for being the nicest of people and being very business, he was still less business than the TKO people. It's more corporate than ever now, without a doubt, and it's working for them at least now. They're making more money than ever, but Netflix is thank you, good doctor. Netflix this week did 4.7% lower than Raw and Netflix did last week. Last week was the previous all-time low. This week was even more of a low. It's bombing. It is bombing on Netflix for various reasons. One of them, a big one, I would say, being that you can't channel surf watching on there, and you have advertisements on Netflix. People that get Netflix get it because they don't want to watch advertisements, and all of the good content is on YouTube almost right after. Where if you have YouTube Premium, you can not have to sit through the ads. Yeah, Chris, the main event is Cena and Logan Paul against Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. I mean, I even heard Dave Meltzer say it, like that's kind of like the main event that you would have on like a SmackDown before a pay-per-view, not a pay-per-view. You can honestly say that Cena's heel turn has kind of fallen flat. It's not a buzz. It's not like when The Rock came back over a year ago before the last WrestleMania. Everyone everywhere for at least a bit of time was talking about wrestling because The Rock was back in it. I mean, I honestly will say this has fallen flat. And I do like John Cena. He was never one of my favorite wrestlers, but I do go out of my way to watch what he does in wrestling, as because he's one of the best. So I like to see what he does, but people are having a hard time taking him seriously as a heel because he's still posting motivational quotes and stuff on social media. I don't think anyone really hates John Cena. And to me, it's a boring product. I honestly think they should never taken the belt off of Roman Reigns. He was more over than Cody was, and since Roman Reigns has been out of the top picture, I mean, out of sight, out of mind. I understand why they're using Logan Paul, but I'm not a fan of his as a wrestler either. Although I don't doubt that he's talented, and I would use him myself with his following. Yeah, Money in the Bank has only 4 matches. They keep doing these 4-match pay-per-views. And if you're like me, I don't like long matches. I would rather see eight or I would honestly 10 matches is too much for me. I'd rather see eight matches and let's keep it under 3 hours. Speaking of short matches, one of my favorite wrestlers is Goldberg. And it's looking more likely than not his retirement match is probably going to be next month in Atlanta. He's dropping a lot of hints that he's tapering down his training. He is where he wants to be at 58. He feels he's gonna put on a hell of a show. WWE SmackDown in Knoxville last Friday had a good crowd, 14,546. The building hell holds 21,678. Raw this week in Tulsa did 9,494. 19,199 is the capacity of that building. Nick Khan sold over 4.5 million in TKO stock. So that tells you something. At some point it's going to turn. Yeah, I heard Drew McIntyre turned 40 and he's making probably around 5 million a year. Good for him. TNA is in Phoenix tonight and tomorrow. They're in a 5,000 seat arena. There's just over 1,000 seats out tonight for Against All Odds, and only about 800 out for tomorrow. One thing, I know they do this for the budget, and I'm not sure if they could afford to go to multiple cities. They probably get a deal to go to places multiple nights. But I think they would get better crowds and fresher crowds if they wouldn't go to the same buildings 2 nights in a row. I mean, I remember PCO when he was still with TNA last year telling me he helped promote the Montreal one where they got a great crowd, their best crowd in a long time the first night, and then the second night had a horrible crowd. And it's like people are going to remember how bad the second night crowd was, and it just, why not just go? They could have gone to Ottawa 2 hours from Montreal the second night and done a better crowd. And it wouldn't have looked like, oh, well, you had a great crowd the first night. The second night, the crowd was the shits. But overall, since TNA is like an unofficial development league of WWE, you could call it a farm league for WWE. It's a lot better. Doctor, well, I was a fan of Goldberg, the Ultimate Warrior, the Road Warriors. I like people that just go in and destroy people. Since pro wrestling is fake, I don't like to see hour-long matches because you don't see UFC fights going an hour without rounds. It's just unrealistic to me for that. And even when I was a kid, I didn't like long matches. I like shorter matches, but everyone's entitled to like whoever they want. I don't hold it against anybody. Vince sold like 150 million in TKO stock. He's still actually, according to Dave Meltzer, he has 7% still. He's still 7%. I didn't hear that R-Truth was offered a lesser contract. I think that he would have taken 350,000 because the talk is he might be, unless it's just a one-off appearance in TNA where he's not signing a long-term deal. If he's going to TNA where they pay crap, from what I understand, why wouldn't he go to AEW? And I don't even know if AEW would pay R-Truth 350. I think AEW's minimum is 150, I heard. Mind you, you're not going to work much in AEW. Mercedes, they're paying millions and millions and millions and millions and millions for Mercedes Moné. They don't even use her on every show. And it's in the news this week. She just captured an Indies title in Vienna, Austria. That's really cool, but it's bizarre to me why they don't get the money they pay out of Mercedes Moné. If I was paying someone 4 or 5 million a year, I would use them to get a good rating on it as much as possible. Chris Jericho has not even been used for months. and he's making reportedly over 5 million a year. Thunder Rosa, I mean, I'm not really impressed with her. I have interviewed her, but I can't tell you I'm impressed with her, especially after, and maybe this is why they're not using her. Her very public match screw up, but she hasn't been used in a long time. She's trying to get on the Texas show because she's from Texas. They released a band in last week who had been with the company since 2020, not used much, hadn't worked since a Ring of Honor taping in February. They pay people to sit at home. I can't say I'm not jealous of that. Could you guys imagine being paid 150 grand a year to sit at home? That's just, these people are so lucky. And you can't tell me this abandon was over. And Bear Bronson, 29, who hadn't been used in months and months and months, they let him ride out his deal. Maria May had been with the company since 2023. She jumped to WWE. And again, we talk about the lack of stars in AEW. Why not have people like Maria May do jobs on the way out? Because she debuted in WWE after losing to one of the top wrestlers in AEW, Tony Storm. They could have got lower wrestlers over by jobbing them out. Paige, they let Saraya, who was one of the most famous wrestlers they had under contract, not really wrestle at all in the months before she left. Apparently, they're doing another 4-hour Dynamite next week after doing a 4-hour Dynamite special. They had a Fighter Fest special with about 2,500 in the crowd. They're probably rounding up. In Denver, it was a combined. Not only did they have, it was a combined Dynamite and Collision taping. And the arena, which was just a ballroom, could hold 5,000. So they basically had a half full place. Saraya, I can see popping back up in WWE because anyone that's been in AEW that returns to WWE seems to get a big pop. And I would sign Saraya to like a year deal in WWE and give her something because people remember her. So that's it for the news today. Wish everyone a great weekend. Got a bunch of interviews coming up, and I hope you've enjoyed the China content this week. It's really sad what happened with China. And I'm not saying it's all WWE's fault, but it's too bad there was no AEW when Stephanie took Triple H from China, because she really had nowhere else to go where she could earn a living at what she did best. And she just went into a downward spiral that sadly ended in death.